Today's episode of Entertainment Drive-Thru is brought to you by Audible.com. Audible.com has over 180,000 audiobooks and audio products. Get your free audiobook of your choice at audibletrial.com/edrivethru.
Welcome to Entertainment Drive-Thru. Today's special is Steve Morse from Deep Purple.
Quiet on the set.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Annie.
Hello, welcome to Entertainment Drive-Thru. I'm Anna, with me is my co-host Dan, and today we have a very special guest. He's an amazing guitarist. You may know him from bands like Dixie Tracks, Kansas, Deep Purple, Living Loud, Angel Fire, Flying Colors, Second Nature, and of course, let's welcome, joining us, is the one, the only, Steve Morse!
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I should add that Second Nature is actually the latest Flying Colors album. But you got everything else perfectly right. Well, thank you for being on the show. How are you?
Doing well. We're actually in the middle of our North American tour, and things are going very well.
Excellent. And
Purple's just chugging along. Like, it's a great time to see the band.
Oh, yeah. And Anna had forgotten to mention, actually, something that I was going to mention is actually, Anna and I have our own band, Anna and the Bells, and Anna was heavily inspired by Motown, and I was actually heavily inspired by you to make this band. So we actually have to thank you at the beginning of this.
Thank you.
And to make that even funnier, I was inspired by the album you did with Kansas.
And Silhouettes in Disguise is one of my favorite. I can't help it. It's such a cool song.
All right.
Yeah.
We actually did two, and the second one was produced by Bob Ezrin, and Bob Ezrin ended up producing our last Deep Purple album.
Oh, no kidding.
Nice.
Which is, to me, one of our best. It's called Now What, and we're trying to get him to do the next. The band just continues to, keep putting out new music.
Yeah. Well, and I have to ask now, as a musician, because you have done so many awesome projects, how did you get started as a musician?
Oh boy. Well, it was part of life, before television had more than 2 channels.
Mm-hmm.
Part of like every kid was playing those plastic flutes in school and singing in another class in school. And most parents tortured their kids by making them take piano lessons.
Right.
And I don't think I had to take piano lessons, but I was curious about, how people did make music on the keyboards, and we had one for a lot of the time. And my mom could play; she could sight read, and so I learned to, by ear, to copy things that I'd heard on the keyboard.
Nice.
And back then, you played whatever your older brother played in the band. And that was the next thing that came along was being in band, just in the public school. And I got handed the clarinet, said, "Here's your instrument." I was not totally into it.
No?
And, I didn't, I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
I wanted to go out and try and do wheelies on my bicycle rather than practice,
Yeah.
And the music didn't inspire me, but I don't know what the reason was. It didn't seem like an amazing thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew it was not the way to go. My brother started taking guitar lessons, and I heard that, and I said, what? This sounds a lot more like something I like. And then the family was sitting around watching jugglers and people spinning plates on a variety show, and the Beatles came on that show, and I told them, says, "Here they are, the Beatles," and they sounded exactly like the recordings.
Nice.
And it was so awesome. The rhythm guitar, John Lennon, just the energy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was just all right, now this is more like it.
Right.
I think we finally figured out, what 11-year-old kid or whatever would like.
So was that was more that moment where you realized, being a musician is what you were meant to do, as opposed to doing something like starting up a barbershop called the Dixie Dreads. You wanted to be a musician.
I think so. Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure actually I was going to be a musician as a career.
Right. Yeah.
Until I was about maybe close to 17, and I got an early admission into college and could go into electrical engineering or music. And it was a school that specialized, that had a really good music department, but I was also interested in the electrical engineering part in order
cool.
to design stuff that would, mutate the musical capabilities of the guitar. Because I knew I was going to play guitar. And, and always been into lots of different things. And so I just, at registration day, I just hemmed and hawed and went back and forth between each one and looked at the schedule. And by the time I finally decided to do music, a lot of my core courses had been scheduled. So I ended up with like some 15-hour days,
Oh, geez. Well, and actually, because you talk about that was, kind of the other path you were looking at, with all the technology in music today, what are your thoughts on all of this? I mean, I know that, we see a lot of guitar players are going toward, the Axe effects. So they just have one box that does everything. Is that, kind of where you like to go toward, or are you still, the old school, get a whole pedal board and everything kind of guy?
Yeah, I'm still old school, but I do have one of those modeling apps as well.
Okay.
And I see the advantages of everything. Compact size and lightweight for somebody traveling is a big plus. On the other hand, for not much penalty, if you're driving in any kind of vehicle, you get a real actual tube amp and some very compact pedals. TC has been making these smaller but better pedals.
Right, yeah.
That have taken the place of my rack gear. So now I have a pretty compact setup. I have a setup that I can fit inside the cab of my mid-sized pickup truck.
Wow, that's got to be really convenient.
Yeah, so I don't have to put a cap on the truck or anything, and I can go to a local gig and have wet and dry amps with speakers and a pedal board and guitar and change clothes and room for capacitor.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of like combining the miniaturization of electronics with.
Right. Yeah.
With what I did was I cut a 404 cabinet into 2x4, or sorry, 2x12s. There's a 412 regular rock and roll cabinet, and I actually just cut it.
Really?
And then put a floor and a top on it, and rewired it, and then when I get to the gig, I can stack them back together, and then it's like a split cabinet. One's dry and one's wet, and the wet one is just for delays.
Okay,
so it doesn't modulate the original signal.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, because I remember when, the Axe effects first came out and all these digital effects were coming out. I'm the guy that I like the whole pedal board. I just think it's the fun element of having the pedals in front of you, having a box for just distortion, things like that. But, so I didn't really like the digital world as much, in terms of this stuff. But I think it's really started to grow on me in the sense of, the truth is it's all about what sounds good. Some people can make digital effects sound really, really incredible. I've heard people take that stuff in the studio and make it sound so great for a recording of it. But I still, for the performance of it, I'm like you. I like to have the pedals still there. But I like how you have that. You have like a way of compacting the two together.
Well, one thing that helps me, kind of stay into it and really helps performance-wise is having the delays go into pedals so that I can mix them in.
Yeah.
Or, completely remove them, and that allows an infinite variety of combinations. So it is just like you have foot control of a mixer, and it's not, as opposed to a preset where you hit a preset and suddenly there's delay. This way I could sneak it in at the end of the note, hold the long note, then snap it off to the next fast part.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. And then, like I said, I can sort of tailor things, and the guitar I played the most has 4 pickups on it. So I mess with those, change the volume, it changes the gain and structure in the amp, and cleans it up on certain pickups.
Yeah.
Better than others, and then you can give a little short delay for chorus, a little long delay for some trail, and have totally different sounds without doing much of anything except moving the foot and moving the small finger in your right hand on the volume.
And I have to ask one other question about sound and technique and all this stuff that I've been really excited to ask you this because I've always been curious about this, is the way you hold your pick. Because, this is one thing that I've noticed. You hold your pick differently than pretty much every guitarist I've ever seen. I wanted to know, when you first learned guitar, were you making like the shadow puppets? You were doing like a duck and then you just kind of stuck your pick in the beak and just turned your hand?
No, it was me trying to do probably Are You Experienced?
Okay.
In a small room with heavily overdriven sounds into my little box amp. And I was trying to control the feedback because I wanted to get that backward sound, which I just didn't know how I did it. And of course, it's obvious it was done with reverse recording, but I was trying to imitate that.
Yeah.
And I had to lay my fingers across all the strings except one, so I had to arch the heel of my hand was on the lower strings. I mean, the thicker strings, and my pinky was kind of holding the E and B strings while I was trying to get the third string to vibrate.
Interesting.
And so I would kind of just gently take it, and then that opening between the pinky and the heel of my hand is where I let the strings be open. So I was muting everything else and using the energy of the speaker to try to get it to sustain.
So I like that, you decided to hold your pick based on trying to figure out how to play Are You Experienced? And then it just kind of stuck.
Well, it works for lots of things. If you were playing Sunshine for Love, for instance, you go do 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 do. Now you're down there on low A string. If you're not muting all the other top strings, the tenor strings at the same time, you're going to have an ugly sound.
Right. Yeah.
You're going for one note, and so again, I would trail my pinky behind to make sure I was meeting those other strings. And I still needed a way to pick. So that's why my hand was, like I said, it was resting on the side on the strings, but in order to pick, I had to use 2 fingers and a thumb.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break to listen to a clip from Name Dropping by Steve Morse, but we will be right back. But you're with Deep Purple. You've been with Deep Purple since '94, and it seems like the band really stuck together because you joined the band. To revive them. How has it been? Being on the road with such a legendary band for this long.
Well, it's actually been pretty amazing. I think everybody has had the same influences, or very nearly the same, for the same number of years. We're not all the exact same age, but we certainly came from different continents. But our influences are so similar, and we've, seen a lot of the same things happen, and have similar stories of, ups and downs in life, and
Right, yeah.
Everything. We just kind of arrived at this point in our lives at the same time that, I don't know, we just had the chemistry to use all the experience we had to help us work together.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about you being in the band, and I mean just the band in general, I actually saw you guys perform in Michigan. This was probably about 10 years ago. I think it was at Meadowbrook in Michigan. And I mean, it's the high energy that you guys have when you play shows. The fact that you guys just look like you're having the best times of your lives. That's one of the things I love about watching you guys perform. And you guys have a great live show.
Well, thank you. We actually do have great time on stage. It's fun, and one thing that I love about the band is just they just don't get tired of making it sound and feel really good.
Right? Yeah.
There's genuine excitement when just those special moments happen when Don and I are trying something and it comes together really well, or just everybody just nails the groove of the tune, or I just happen to be hitting the exact rhythm part that just makes Dylan come over and just slap me on the back, and just give me the attaboy kind of pumping fist thing, and they still love it,
Yeah,
it's contagious. It is fun.
I think that just seems like, I mean, from when I saw you, that just seems like the best way to describe it. Because it really does seem like when you guys are on stage, it's like one of you will start smiling and then the rest of you will just like one by one start smiling after seeing the other one.
Yeah, I used to get criticized by the Blackmore fans.
Really?
Because they called me Smiley. and it was not a complimentary term.
I love when that's a bad thing. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
so funny.
because Blackmore didn't really smile at all, and he still doesn't really smile at all.
Well, what it does is if it's a telltale thing that can end your career if you're, I guess, sort of a goth metal performer or a rap artist. Smiling is not okay. So I've ruined myself for several months, and some of the fans that like that, the dark mystery of Richie Blackmore, just his image, they were really offended by the fact that I was having a good time, and that never occurred to me. And that, I've never been in that situation before where I thought that image mattered so much, but that was enlightening to know that, some people just like performance, and performance image-wise too. And I've never been an image guy. I've always said, just be yourself and play the best you can.
Yeah, just get on stage and do your thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, has that been your biggest challenge, or what has been, and how have you overcome it?
Biggest challenge is always scheduling.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, my son was 3 years old when I joined the band, or 2. Yeah, he was 2.
Oh, jeez.
And and I'm super close to my son, and he's my only child, and now I have stepdaughters and briefly I had stepsons, so I've had lots of variations of our blended family, but leaving my son was just so hard.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's a different sort of life, and I made up for it by being the guy that, they would wake up and hang out with him in the morning, take him to school and pick him up from school, and and really be attentive and be amazed that he was there and that he was alive each day. So I think if I had control of scheduling, that would be my biggest wish, because there's so many. I like to do other little projects and stay in touch with my friends and other parts of the music business, and it's really hard when with this band it's always, well, June, I don't know. We're usually working in June. September, I just can't say, because they won't have the schedule until June, and by then it'll be too late. But then I say, well, January, well, we usually do some gigs by then, and then I have to do the man show, and so I pretty much can't schedule anything. And everybody thinks, my friends they think I'm just making it up. How can you not know what you're doing?
No, I totally get that, though. I noticed that as well, being not only an artist, just in general, when you don't have like a routine job that's from a specific period, I get so lost, not only what day it is, then like trying to schedule any vacation or meet up with anybody or something. It's just, you get totally lost in time.
Yeah, and I love the way we had it with the Dregs before the band broke up. It opened for Marshall Tucker Band, and we were sitting around talking to them, and they said, they were burning us out. And one day we just looked at each other. This is Marshall Tucker talking. And we just looked at each other and said, have you had enough? Yeah. And we just said, all right, that's it.
Wow.
And they arranged it so that every month there was 10 days in a row. That was it. So they had time off, they had a schedule, and they had 10 days of hard work, and then go home every month. So, and then they had the Christmas month off. So I thought that was a great idea.
Amazing.
And so I modeled what we did after that, especially with my solo project, and that went really well, up to the point where for some reason the whole live music thing started shifting, and maybe the direction of music or whatever, just found it hard to keep doing that circuit. And then I ended up with Kansas and Saints again. But I loved that frequency, 10 days of 24 hours a day, complete attention, and then you have 20 days off.
Amazing.
Of course, some of the 20 days you're doing interviews and you're packing and you're unpacking and you're doing laundry and writing stuff, and, you're always working on music. So it's not like time off completely.
Well, yeah.
But at least you're home. You can do other things.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, that's the life of a musician. We never really have time off. It's just a matter of time off from like the professional stuff.
And it's the same with actors and everything. They have their movie shoots and then they have the press packet.
Well, I always love describing that. Whenever someone who's not a musician asks me, like, what is it like being a musician? And I say, okay, imagine you get like that perfect hour where you have nothing to do. You finally get like that time off. And then that's when you come up with your best riff. Or like that's like you're about to fall asleep and that's when you come up with your best line. That's kind of what it's like being a musician. You're always working.
I guess, yeah. I feel pretty guilty just sitting down. And I tried during this tour, I tried it a couple of times. Sitting down for an hour and doing something that
really?
that is not work that I have to do or feel that I have to do. And of course I can't do it until I feel like I've caught up on everything.
Yeah, right.
And it is almost stressful.
Oh, yeah. It really is, because it's like finally you get that time, and then, well, like at least for me, it's like I finally get that time to just kind of relax and try something new. And then it's like, well, what do I do? What do I do now? And then you finally figure it out. It's like, well, I've got other things I kind of have to get to.
Yeah, I stay very busy, but I guess, when people say, well, you don't seem to work very much. I said, well, actually, I could just throw up a diagram of the day. Right. Here's a typical day. Today was only 13 hours of you have to be here and do this. That's not a bad day. That's an easy day. Now let's look at the bad day. Let's look at a bad day on the road. All right, you had 2.5 hours sleep. Just trace through everything that you have to do sometimes. And
right.
Yeah, if you're traveling in a vehicle that you can't sleep in, and you're doing sound checks, you're doing interviews, you're doing meet and greet, you're doing practicing, and then you're doing shows, you'll find that the entire day is gone, and there's no time to lounge.
Yeah.
I guess the bottom line is the best musicians that succeed in that kind of schedule are the ones who feel driven to do it, because you can't always schedule it, and you just have to take every minute you can and say, oh, I can do this now, or I can do that now.
Right.
And adapt.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, speaking of things that are challenging, we actually have a new challenge for you today because we are up to our segment, The Question of the Day. Today's episode of Entertainment Drive-Thru is brought to you by Audible.com. Audible.com is offering listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/edrivethru and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's just that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/edrivethru. That's audibletrial.com/edrivethru and get started today. And this is actually a special question just for you because I thought of it and I'm just so curious as to what your response would be for this. So you might be the only one that gets this question, but I'm really curious. If you had a time machine to go back in time and perform a show with any musician that has passed away, who would you play with?
Ooh, okay. Would I have electricity?
Yes.
If I went to a pre-electric era, would I have electricity?
Well, I mean, based on the improbability of this question, we'll go with yes.
Okay. Well, I would like to prepare for, I guess, that whatever church service Bob was writing for that week, and trying to do like a special guest thing where he writes some awesome left-hand stuff that I could do, and then I switch over to melodies and with his awesome 4-part counterpoint writing.
I've always thought that the acoustic guitar with piano doing, Baroque type music has always been a really cool sound. Mm-hmm. I think the two instruments, I don't think I've ever actually heard this, but I've been dying to hear it because I think it would sound really well, is the harpsichord with the acoustic guitar. I just think the two instruments would really complement each other. Yeah,
and it'd be, my brother played guitar and played the harpsichord.
Oh, really?
Some kids. Yeah. I imagine that would be a great choice, sonically, if there was no electricity, to match the two instruments, because, it wouldn't be as overpowering as a piano.
Mm-hmm. Right. I have to say, though, I find this really amusing because I feel like most guitar players would be like, oh, Jimi Hendrix, hands down. Or I would love to play with, I would love to go back and play, with like Elvis Presley. But you go back way before that.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was the guy that got the repetition of the rhythm and then making the parts interesting and melodic somehow.
Yeah.
And with an abundance of notes, he could make the parts musical and memorable and with so much energy.
And the thing that just blows my mind about him is the fact that, he wrote that music for church, and he was basically at the point where he was writing, like a new song every single day. And I struggle with writing a song every year. I don't, well, maybe not that bad, but I just find it amazing, that he could write it was like he was pumping out all these tunes, and every single one of them had their variation that made them different.
Also, I don't think they had that much at that time, so I think they have a little bit more.
Well, he did have a little more to work with,
yeah.
but you still got to think. Was it really that much easier then? Because he still had his influences like we have today, and it is hard to write and say, well, I have to be different from this person, or be the person who says I don't care, but you still want to be your own. It is still tough.
Well, I think back then also, if you wrote another tune in a very similar style as the last one, that was okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and the density of the I mean, those could be similar to the tonality, similar, very diatonic stuff. But again, somehow he could take any part. I mean, if you analyze his middle voices of some things, they're just beautifully done. To me, he just picked the perfect way of doing it. It's like, I don't know, it's like somebody say, draw the illustration for the program that's going to be this week, and somebody does it in exquisite detail and makes every single part of it, perfectly proportioned. You just have to admire that. The deeper you look, the more perfection there is.
Right.
And it's vision.
And I actually, because we're kind of getting toward the next question I wanted to ask, so I guess I'll say, getting back to the interview now that we've had our fun, I wanted to ask about songwriting, because one of the projects that you're in that I absolutely love is Flying Colors. And we actually had the opportunity to talk to Neil Morse on this show, who I'm convinced you guys are related. I don't think you actually are, but I'm convinced you are. But anyway, I wanted to ask, with a group that, a super group like this of all virtuoso musicians, how does the songwriting go about, for you? How do you go about writing with other people as opposed to, the Steve Morse band, writing your solo stuff?
Well, it's very easy to write with Flying Colors.
Okay.
That's the difference. It happens very quickly. And one thing I've always been able to do is come up with ideas quickly. And, that doesn't mean I can always flesh them out right then and there.
Right, yeah.
But, if I sit down and apply myself, I can usually find lots of variations of ways to continue from this part or to add to this part or whatever. So I was in pretty good shape for that kind of fast-paced writing when I got with Neil Morse. Now, Neil is not a normal guy. He's really quick musically.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I found myself, going from, cruising down Main Street in second gear to, wow, I better make sure I can hold this thing on the road as I'm going around these curves.
Right.
I had to use all my abilities sometimes just to keep up with him, in order to be able to add something useful to how quickly he was coming up with stuff. So we had a very productive first meeting, and then decided let's continue this. And he said, well, I usually work with Mike. I said, well, I usually work with Dave. Let's talk about the singer. We got Casey, another writer. So we were busy as a group, very, very, like I said, very intense.
Yeah. Well, and actually, because, when we were talking to Neil, he was making a point that, one of the things about working with other musicians, especially in a group like Flying Colors and, Transatlantic, he was saying one of the problems was it's like he would get a song just the way that he would like it. And then someone else would come in and say, yeah, I think it should go this way. And it's like he was making the point, and actually, we were going to talk about advice next. And, one of the things that he was saying about advice is, to not get too attached to a part when you're writing with others, because, it will get changed or, maybe not, but, another one might get changed to something you might not necessarily agree with at first. Have you had a lot of situations like that, or is it just Neil complaining about your writing?
No. It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Like we all had this partner, and Casey's a little bit younger, and so we were saying, what? We had put it down in demo form and everything, and it's really good.
Yeah.
And Casey's like, that sounds good and everything, but I feel like it's got this timestamp, put on it stylistically.
Right.
So we ended up changing it to suit Casey, and then it turned out better,
right?
And more original. Another example would be Neil had this chorus on tune that he was really pushing, and we were trying to work on it, and he got up to get some coffee or something. And I said, well, did you change that F sharp to the D, and we go here and this? And Casey said, yeah, love that. What do you think, Mike? Well, yeah, that's right. And so we were going through it the new way. Everybody said, oh, yeah, this is cool. Neil walks in with this cup of coffee, taking a sip. He said, "Hey, what happened to my chorus?" And I said, "Get a coffee, lose a chorus."
It's kind of like the whole "you snooze, you lose" type thing. You get a coffee, you lose your chorus.
Exactly. That's how fast it would happen.
That's funny. So far with your career as a whole, what's been some of the best advice that someone's given you that you would recommend maybe to someone just getting started?
My best advice that I've heard, I don't know if there's just one, but I can tell you maybe a couple things off the top of my head that I heard. One was I was told to talk to a local man in Augusta, Georgia, when I was thinking about going to music school, and my major was going to have to be classical guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because they didn't really have a rock guitar program. They had jazz or classical, and I was definitely not a jazz guy. And so he said, "Well, playing classical guitar is 90% work and 10% inspiration and talent."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Whoa, wow, okay."
Right.
I'm not sure I like that, but his point is that you have to have the talent. That has to be part of it.
Right, yeah.
But you can't develop it. You can't develop a good technique with just talent. It takes repetition, a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his point. And I see that in everything. You see people with talent, they can write and sing, but if they don't spend the time, training their voice, it doesn't have its heel.
Yeah.
That's somebody who's just, hunting for the notes and not quite getting them. And same thing with guitar. And, of course, along the way, a lot of people said, just play what you love, be you are and all that stuff.
Right.
I always subscribe to that. And those just something. And I think that the advice from the Marshall Tucker band was really right on. And very few bands have taken their advice, have known how to take their advice, because the agents and managers don't want to do it that way.
Right, yeah.
They get stay home.
Well, of course, when you're working with other people, I mean, you have to work to what they want. You have to work to what you want. I mean, it just becomes, I feel like that's how schedules really become a mess, when you have to work with every other person.
Right.
Yes, it's sort of self-limiting. You take away, well, we were just talking about flying colors.
Yeah.
Just for us to get together, we need to break in the perfect schedule. We break in 4 or 5 other bands' schedules to get everybody in the same place. And, you do those graphs and math where you have a sphere of one set, and you take the sphere of another set, and where they touch, that's the intersection. Well, you have to intersect 5 different spheres in order to find the time that we could all do it.
Yeah, I was curious about that, because, I mean, Mike Portnoy is one of my all-time favorite drummers. But, it seems like ever since he left Dream Theater, he's been in, like one band, and then he gets in another band, and then he gets in another band, which is good because all those bands are awesome, and I'm glad he's doing it because I've got so much music to listen to. But I've always wondered, with someone being in one of those bands, how it is scheduling, because he's going back and forth with all these projects.
Well, he's one of the best, sort of self-managing guys I've ever seen. He's amazing, and he's sort of like, I call him the human supercomputer. He can keep track of lots of things, and in a very mathematical and finite way as well, and yet be very musical. So he's really intense with that. So he's always thinking ahead and trying to figure out how he can parlay this. I'm going to be here then. Maybe I could get with these guys, and we could do that to here. And then he's always planning things out, and I think he just gets with people that will go along with his plan. He just happens to know so many people that he can find people that are available for whenever he can be available.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we are getting down to the end of our interview. But before we go, where are places that our listeners can find out more information about you and the projects that you're working on?
Oh, there's a cmorse.com and Facebook that I sort of phone in some comments to, but
nice.
it's got all the the current things on it. And of course, you can go to Flying Colors and find out about the other people. deeppurple.com, thehighweststar.com for more Deep Purple stuff, and tour dates of every musician separately. The internet is, you could spend all day.
Right? Is there something about Deep Purple that fans don't know about? I thought that was so interesting with Boston. Gary told us something.
Yeah.
Gary told us a total mythbuster about Boston. I was wondering if there's something that the fans either get wrong, or if there's something that the fans would love, like that the band would love the fans to know.
I think I would like the fans to know that the band is very genuine, it's an old school band living in a modern world. And again, like I said, if you ever are even curious about seeing bands of this type, I would say do it now.
Yeah.
This is the time to see this band. I mean, I'm obviously in my early 20s, but some of the other guys may be in their 30s by now.
That's like the thing where when women turn 29, it's like for the rest of their life they're turning 29 again.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's awesome, and it really is true. You guys are all great people. I love, that's one of the things I love about your band.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're having a great time on the tour, and let's see, we should be right about in Michigan, Ohio, Iowa, Kansas, Heartland, Texas, California. So there's a lot of big gigs yet to come.
Perfect.
Do you? All right, last question I got to ask, and then we got to go. But I got to ask: when you play in Kansas, do you play a song from Power?
Oh, I wish we could do stuff like that. Yeah, sometimes I play glimpses of songs in the improvs, and they're little musical jokes that usually only Don area people play good, because he has amazing views and perfect picks.
Right.
But like when we played in Boston, and during the intro, I just hinted at one of the Boston songs.
Nice.
In the intro, and of course nobody can hear it because it doesn't sound like the record. It's just the musical motif for just a few seconds.
Oh,
and of course, Don gets it and starts playing along. Stuff like that. We do hint at any kind of musical quotation that will make us laugh.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for being on the show. It's really been an absolute honor to talk to you.
Thank you.
Same here. Thanks for calling back and doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you. And for more information on Steve Morse and the podcast, go to entertainmentdrivethru.com and subscribe on iTunes. Like and follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/entertainmentdrivethru and our Twitter and Instagram at edrivethru.
Hi, this is Steve Morse, and you've been listening to Entertainment Drive-Thru.